which is, what have we learned? What have we learned? The Cowboys aren't as bad as we thought, or maybe it's the momentum of a game, or maybe the other team is not as good as we thought, but last night was just a wild game. Just a wild game. And if you had the assumption that there's going to be a blowout, and early on it looked like it might be a blowout, never fear, the Packers' ability to keep a game that should have been a blowout close is here. And then you factor in that Micah Parsons is playing for the Packers and not the Cowboys, and it was a huge part of the discussion. And then you factor in that CeeDee Lamb wasn't playing for the Cowboys, and you're like, this shouldn't be close. After the game, one in which the Cowboys won 40-40, right? We can all, is that okay? Are we all okay saying that? Cowboys won 40-40. They won a game that was tied. Here's Jerry Jones, owner and general manager of the Cowboys, talking about the game.
I don't want to. That game was probably a great game for the NFL as far as a showcase for the game and competition because you had outstanding quarterback play. You had some very talented people out there playing. You certainly had one of the most expensive players in the history of the NFL out there playing. And so I guess everybody was going to take a look tonight and decide is he worth all that. It's very simple. Right. Dak was indispensable. In my mind. Right. And so, yes. And Micah wasn't.
When Micah wasn't. We haven't seen it in the playoffs, and especially consistency in the playoffs. But if we're through, however, 4 weeks of the season, are we okay collectively as a bunch of guys that watch football? That's what we are. Okay? I don't know anybody who watches as much football as Dan Byer does. I watch a ton of football. I know that Jay Stu watches a lot of football on Sundays, and Sam watches WNBA and football. Right? I think Jay Stu probably mixes in baseball more than the rest of us, especially Dodger baseball. I obviously watch a lot of my own college basketball team, but we watch a lot of football. Are we okay if we're critical of Jerry Jones for a lot of things? He has been his reason behind hiring Brian Schottenheimer, his reason behind moving off of Micah Parsons, his reason behind a lot of things is I got Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is elite. And though we don't have it in the playoffs, though we don't have championships, I actually think the guy's right. From this standpoint, right? Like, had he hired a different coach, it would have been a different coordinator, and a different coordinator, who knows if Dak looks comfortable. Dak looks like he has complete and total command. He looks more athletic and lighter than he did going back to last year. And he looks like one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Byer, are you okay with saying that?
That Dak looks like a top 5 quarterback?
Yes, so far through 4 weeks of the season. And essentially, again, I don't know if you want to go through numbers of who looks, whatever. But I would say that if Jerry's right about anything, he is right about Dak Prescott so far.
I will just say this, because I've never had a problem with Dak at all. And I think I've actually been more pro-Dak than anti-Dak. So I think last night was what we saw what Dak Prescott could do. Okay. I'm along those lines with you.
Okay. Sam?
Last night, I looked at Dak and his performance, and I'm like, you know what, this year so far, and then his past seasons, I just look at him as like the industry standard. Like he is a quarterback who should be paid what he's paid. Maybe he's not the flashiest all the time, but he's the standard. That's how you should play quarterback. I don't know if I'd put him top 5. Maybe he floats around in there, but he is the industry standard in my opinion.
Jay Stu.
I'm going to answer your question with a question. Would you be surprised? I don't know who they play this week. Would you be surprised if he did a head-scratching bad decision in the next game, and we're in a week we're talking about him being a dumb crap? Because, like, the thing with Dak Prescott, to me, has always been consistency. When he's been healthy, he goes up and down. So we're talking about him after a really good game. He seems to have had a couple good games in a row here. But the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't do well in the next game. And we're talking about the weird decision-making and the interception or whatever.
Would it surprise me? It would not, because that's actually kind of par for the course for most NFL quarterbacks. And remember, they're coming off a loss against the Bears where they did not play well, and he had 2 interceptions, right? I thought he was obviously good against the Giants. He was really good against the Eagles. So if you say, hey, out of 4 games, he's played well in 3 of them, my expectations as the industry standard would be same thing coming up. Now, they have 3 or 4 on the road, Jets, Panthers, Broncos on the road, Commanders at home, even if you go in this 5-game stretch. Would it surprise me? No. It would probably impress me, though, if he backed up this performance with another outstanding performance.
So then he's not top 5, right? Because you expect a more consistent quarterback in the top 5.
Yeah. So who are the top 5 quarterbacks, though? Right? We'd all have, I think we'd all have Mahomes, although Mahomes hasn't been great all year, but some of it is he didn't have weapons to throw to all year, right? Josh Allen, I think everybody's okay putting him there. I would put Herbert there based upon 4 weeks of the season, but Herbert was not good yesterday. Part of the reason he wasn't good was he had no protection. So who else are we? Lamar has been good, but bad in fourth quarters, and now he's hurt, and they've lost. So who else are we putting in that list there?
I think Burrow's always 2 or 3, right?
Sure, but he's hurt.
And you're talking first 4 weeks of the season, top 5 quarterback play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the point is that he's definitely in the top 10, and right now he leads the NFL in passing yardage. So there's that aspect of it.
I would say through 4 games of the season, we can all say like we may carry past biases against him, and that's fair. But if you'd say through 4 games of the season he hasn't looked like a top 5 quarterback, you're just holding the past against him too much. And again, what was Jerry's logic? Jerry's logic was last year in signing him first was he's the most valuable. You have to have Dak. He did that. And then Jerry's logic in hiring Brian Schottenheimer was that offense is working. He likes it. He's happy. He's stable. He knows it. Let's fall there. And I don't know if this was really his logic with Micah Parsons or if this is just something that he's come upon, which is, hey, part of the reason I didn't want to sign Micah Parsons, that big deal was I'm already paying Dak Prescott more than anybody else at quarterback. I don't need to be doing that with 2 different guys. And so if I have to choose between one, I'm going to choose Dak, and I think he made the right decision. That's my takeaway. Do I think you could have gotten both done? Yes. Do I think he's making an excuse for it? Of course. But I also think that Dak Prescott as a quarterback and a leader, if you found an offense that works for him, now you have 2 first-round picks, you freed some money up for future years, rebuilding around everything else isn't as hard, isn't as difficult as finding that quarterback. Yes, Dan.
You know, it's funny because I'm watching a highlight package now of last night. And I think that Jerry made all the right decisions, but also these decisions are made like via Jerry. And it's funny because I'm seeing Micah Parsons on the screen just as much as I'm seeing Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones is on the set of Sunday Night Football in America last night talking about the whole thing. So whether it works out in the long term or not, and I think in the short term it's worked out for Dallas, and Jerry keeps on saying in the long term they've got those picks. Man, that deal is right in the wheelhouse for Jerry, and because he's the focus of attention. And now when we're, waxing poetically, or most of us are about Dak, it's more about Jerry. Like, as crazy as it is, and I don't know how good the Cowboys are after a miserable week in week 3, but even after a tie, I think we're looking like Jerry and the Cowboys at least are winners right now.
Sure. That's the beauty. That's why I say they won last night 40-40. They won last night 40-40. Here's Matt LaFleur talking about how he was not at all pleased with the result.
Obviously, he didn't come down here to tie a football game, but that's what happened. Too many critical mistakes that led to that tie. Give Dallas credit. They did a great job offensively, moving the ball down the field. But there's a lot of things that we all have to clean up, starting with myself. I mean, we're trying to be aggressive at the end of the half, and that really bit us in the butt.
Yeah, end of the half and end of game and end of overtime all bit them. Here's LaFleur talking about the clumsy clock management at the end of the game, which caused them to have to tie.
That just goes to the level of detail where we're not where we need to be. There's 28 seconds left. We call a play to take a shot to the end zone. They played cover 2. We end up checking the ball down. So we have an on-the-ball call to send everybody to the end zone. And we knew that we used the term O-zone, saying that it's got to go out of bounds or end zone, obviously with time remaining. And just the operation was just way too slow. Like, I don't know if our guys didn't know we were in 2 minutes or what, but ultimately the communication's got to get better. Myself to Jordan to the huddle, and that's the bottom line.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. It's a bad, tough look. You know, where you're sitting there at the end of the game, and here's guys that have been you've worked together before, you've played in the playoffs before, you've played in close games together before, and they look disorganized. And I get that it's early in the season, and I get that it's crazy. Maybe you didn't expect to be in that position. I commend LaFleur. Like, LaFleur is not pointing fingers. He's like, hey, I got to be better. They got to know what we're in. You know, these are automatics. Really disappointing 2 games for the Packers, who started out like a house of fire and felt like they went through the motions last week and got beat. And obviously you give up a blocked field goal last week, a blocked field goal this week, and that ends up being the difference in both those games.